Y'all broadcasting live? I don't
Yes,
think they're
we are.
ready.
This dude.
Where
Yes.
do we go?
Welcome. What's up? What is up? Back once again, it is the Incredible in the Black podcast. We're not going to go through all the formalities. This is a very special episode of the In the Black podcast. You know, where we typically don't show up randomly in the middle of the week, but things have been interesting today.
To the left.
Things have been interesting today. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I am your host, Big O, Mr. In the Black himself. But you know, once again, as always, I can never do this alone. Let me introduce the rest of the locks. Boogie, say what's up, my guy.
Hey, man, I am in a great mood, man. Boy, I am in a good mood.
All right. Okay. So, as many of you are probably aware, there is or has been chaos throughout the course of the day today, which already started off as a very contentious day. Anyway, earlier today, we were receiving the results from last night, Tuesday's Georgia runoff elections, where new Senator-elect Dr. Reverend Raphael Warnock, aka Atlanta's own JB Smooth, and what's whole boy's name? John Ossoff won.
I always say ass off. I don't know why. Ass off sounds funny.
One of them, they both won their seats. So we were already anticipating there being a lot of butthurt people across the nation. On top of that, today was supposed to be the day that Vice President Mike Pence would preside over the counting of this or certify the results of the election from the Electoral College votes. Mm-hmm. So we knew there were going to be issues or concerns, I will say. I won't say issues, concerns. For over
such a nice guy.
Listen, we're trying to be professional, man. I don't want to. So for over a week, we've been hearing certain senators, Josh Hawley, Marco Rubio,
two white guys,
Ted Cruz, and small vocal others talking about how they were going to try and block this the Electoral College certification today. So they rallied their troops, their coalition of the butthurt, and told them to all come down to DC and make their voices heard. And around 1:00 today, with thousands of MAGA madness in attendance, they breached the halls of the United States Capitol building, the halls of Congress, and tore shit up. I want to say that again. They breached the halls of Congress and tore shit up.
Listen, man, it's the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. It's the funniest thing that I've seen since Dave Chappelle's last stand-up. I'm telling you, it's the funniest shit. To see a bunch of, listen, I love to see white on white crime. I think white on white crime should be.
You are the worst.
It was the mayonnaise brigade out there today. Looking like potato salad with raisins, angry out there, arguing and fussing and fighting. While the sweet potato dude is sitting in the White House watching all of this unfold and instigating. He was just like, you know what it reminded me of?
What?
He reminded me of a preacher, a prosperity preacher that be on BET late in the midnight hour trying to get you to buy one of the anointed shawls. Literally selling buckets of bullshit and lies and watching people, because in order for those commercials to still be on TV at nighttime, somebody got to be buying it. In order for all this madness to take place today, somebody had to be buying the bullshit that he was spewing. I found laughter and joy in it because it was literally watching white people fuss and argue with other white people essentially about who is going to be the head white person in charge. You're literally a bunch of rats arguing over who's going to have the biggest spot in the sewer. It was fascinating to watch, but there was moments where I honestly found it was very troubling too.
Why do you say that?
Because troubling from the fact of it's not all white people who work in the Capitol.
Right. True.
So
Very true.
there was a lot of, and I'm not even talking about the politicians per se. I'm mostly concerned about the staff people who do the bulk of the politicians' work. You know, you have a lot of Black staff people that work in the Capitol who, when you have armed, racist, angry white males storming a place, Black people are usually the ones who are going to be harmed first. So there was a level of concern that I had for them, but there was also a level of absolute just confusion because I know if that would have been, and I hate to make the comparison, and I know it would be
Yeah.
one they would probably make
Yeah.
more than once.
Yeah.
But if this was Black folks marching peacefully because of the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that the white terrorists kneeled on George Floyd, the National Guard would have been called, rubber bullets would have been shot, tear gas would have been unleashed, dogs would have been gnarling, police horses would have been there. It would have looked like an occupied territory. But then when you watch the clippings on CNN, and we'll talk about how the media portrayed this in a few minutes, but when you watch CNN and you see the way armed law enforcement dealt with these white folks, from the selfies that they took with each other to the gentle manner that they dealt with these people. One person on Twitter said that the white terrorists were treated fairly by the cops because they were nothing more than off-duty police officers. So they were treated fairly by the cops because they were their cops' homies. So there was a level of confusion, a level of frustration, but there was no like, oh my God, this is America. How dare you do that type of shit? I didn't have that type of feeling. America was built on this shit. This America was built on rebellion, protest, violence. This is the core. So when I hear your future president-elect Joe Biden make stupid ass comments such
Like,
as
this is not America,
"This
right?
is not America," and I'm sitting back looking at my daughter who's 6 and saying, "Baby, this is America." Okay, this is what the white folks do all the time.
This is exactly how things. This is exactly how things operate.
This is how we got here,
This is
sweetheart.
exactly how things
Violence.
operate. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about what the security structure was, or how that looked, or was supposed to look
Security.
like.
What
Listen to what I'm
security,
saying. Listen. So,
bro, you get more security at a Walmart than you got at the Capitol. At least Walmart, you got some old ass greeters who won't stop you and ask you for a receipt. At the Capitol, you don't even have that type of security, bro. I mean, you would expect a government building literally to have.
Let's come on. Let's take a step back. Okay,
No,
so
you take a step back.
listen. So, according to these initial reports, and we're currently in a fog of war at this point. We're probably going to get more details about how things transpired by tomorrow, and we'll probably have to revise or edit or whatever you want to call it. So, with that being said, so the initial reports are that Mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, she was aware that the Proud Boys and groups like them would be coming to D.C. today. She knew that for days on end. So she requested, because unfortunately D.C. is a territory, not a state, had to ask the federal government for permission to have the Army National Guard activated.
Yes, that's important.
Asked for the Army National Guard to be activated. The reports also say that Donald Trump put his finger on the scale and said, nah, the DOD is not going to allow the Army National Guard to be activated. So in turn, as all of this madness is happening, Muriel Bowser has to now reach out to the Governor Northam in Virginia and Hogan in Maryland and be like, hey, dog, I got a favor to ask you. Can you send some of those folks over to DC because they acting up over here and I don't have no backup. On top of that, the number of people that descended on Washington today was far more than they had anticipated. So when they rushed certain spots of the Capitol building, not only were security quadrants in these areas overwhelmed, but there were so many that they got to crevices and places where there weren't any security, which you can see through these videos on CNN, MSNBC, and all those other places where they were just breaking windows where there are no security was and entering in to the Capitol building. I thought that was fascinating.
Let's hold on for just a second. When the mayor of DC announces that she is concerned because of these folks coming, I think and no one assisted initially, and her pleas were unheard. It's very troubling to me. Now, here's why I find it very troubling. Just a couple of months ago, you had some of these same groups of people go into have a massive kidnap murder plot for Michigan. An actual governor. And you mean to tell me, based off of that plot and some of the other things that we've seen involved with these Proud Boy folks, MAGA, white terrorists, that you mean to tell me you're not going to take this serious? That to me is a huge red flag, because Sean, you have fair, substantial evidence that the Proud Boys and others like them are violent criminals who have the tendency to perpetuate great acts of violence. And for these motherfuckers not to take that shit serious.
Like I said, I think part of it is also because the assumption was that the numbers weren't going to be to this magnitude, because
who you shouldn't bail to? You shouldn't bail to who? Who you going to bail to?
I'm not sure bail to nobody. But also on top of that, hold on real quick. So also on top of that, apparently Washington, D.C. police were also prepared for this, right? But they're limited. There's only but so much Washington, D.C. police can do.
Were they?
So apparently they wanted to come and help quell the nonsense, but they can't come on federal property without permission from the federal government either. So I think one of the most interesting parts about this is, once again, and it's now 8:14 on January 6th. At 8 o'clock, the Senate reconvened to begin counting certifying the electoral votes again. Before all of this happened, you have people like Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, all of these folks on the floor, basically riling these people up more, telling them they should be out there fighting and doing all this other stuff, only to be swept away to these secret bunkers as they're infiltrating the Capitol building.
Why is no one infiltrating? That's the word. That's a fair word, because this was very much a war type scenario where these people I don't understand why these motherfuckers did not.
Hold on, Carmen might be right. You see her? She said, "As prepared as a condom with a hole in it." That's why I love our people, man. Go ahead. But anyway, so we're looking at this foolishness, man, and it gets so out of hand. You said what?
Why was none of these politicians arrested?
That is one of the biggest questions, and I think we'll get towards the tail end. But at this point, what we're seeing now is America's unseasoned chicken coming home to roost.
Hold on. Remember what happened to Malcolm when he said that, bro. Be careful.
We've been seeing this for quite some time. We've been seeing this literally over the past 4 years. America's memory is relatively short. people don't have it unless you've been directly affected, or unless you're a black person or person of color. You're not going to really take Charlottesville to heart. You're not going to take all the Muslim ban to heart. You're not going to take all these things to heart, right?
But right, why would I take that to heart?
Exactly. That's exactly my point. So on top of that, what do we have? We have our incredible commander-in-chief was asked to please talk to your people and calm this nonsense down. And this is the message that he gave. And I want us to parse this once we come back. Listen to this.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home, and go home in peace.
Man, so, when I hear him talk, bro, I hear, remember the great prophet Christopher Wallace, on his second album, Notorious B.I.G., Life After Death, he has a song on there where it goes, somebody got to die. If I go, you got to go. Somebody got to die. Every time he talks, bro, I hear Biggie rapping, somebody got to die. Now, I'm not implying anything, but what I'm saying is somebody got to die.
So we're looking at this whole situation, man, and you would think that the president of the free world would come out and actually try and tone the volume down. But he did it in such a backhanded manner that telling them he has to go home in peace, but they stole it from you. And I understand why you're mad, because we won, but they're not telling you that we won. And I'm like, what are you doing? And listen, I'm gonna tell you something. One of my cousins on
the show. I swear you are. Go ahead.
One of my cousins from Nigeria, right? Nigeria is a country, since its independence in 1960, has had 9 military coups or civil uprisings. My cousin, he's about the same age as me, so he didn't experience it. He's not from my parents' generation, but we know the history, right? So my cousin messages me and is like, "My guy, are you okay? I know that these are rough. We know what time it is over here. Is this what's going on over in your end of the world?"
You got folks from Nigeria, war-torn countries, reaching out to people in America to check and see if we all right. Folks that got tanks in their back damn yard, sleep on damn, weapons of mass destruction, texting you in America, asking you, are you okay?
Am I okay?
Clears are fighting the clears. You got
losing their mind. I think it goes without saying, because we're going to take a step into the mechanics of it all. We could easily say that without the instigation of Donald Trump and his ne'er-do-wells and miscreants to follow behind him once again, like Josh Hawley, ne'er-do-wells.
Okay, you can read books. Okay. It ain't about it tonight. I got you.
I got my smart cap on. So it's folks like that have helped to instigate this whole situation, right? Can you imagine? Because I know that we have folks on the left that hate them too, and I don't understand where the hate comes from. But folks on the left that hate them, can you imagine if AOC, Ayanna Pressley, any of our folks from the squad were the ones? I'll take that. Any of them? Let's be real. Can you imagine let's imagine that it was our homeboy Jamal Bowman that was standing up in front of Congress and saying, "Yeah, we need to do something. We need storm the Capitol building." What would happen to him? But yet we haven't heard near one complaint about the clowns Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Marco Rubio for instigating to the point. Somebody died today. A woman died. She was shot in the neck and she has already been pronounced dead. Now, for some people like myself, it comes with the territory. Sometimes there has to be blood before there's change, right? But Josh Hawley and those folks that instigated that have blood on their hands. I think it was actually very interesting, to be very honest with you. It was very quick that Josh Hawley's home newspaper put a title like, this dude's got blood on his hands. I'm gonna show you. Let me take a look at this joint real quick. Let me see. Where is it? Look at that already, because they know what time it is. That all of this foolishness, because you want to run for president in 2024 and you're trying to capture Trump's base, that you went and instigated or took everything to this level.
And I'm listening as you know, as all this is unfolding. I'm on Twitter. I mean, not Twitter, but I'm on CNN and I'm listening. And you know, they got your boy Anderson Cooper is interviewing some of the Republican cats. Some of the Republican people are calling out, and he's specifically trying to get Republican people on the line because you know Anderson has that beef against Republicans, whatever the fuck that may be. But all these Republican dudes are calling in and talking about what they're seeing in there. You can hear the fear in their voice and the trauma in their voice from what they experienced. But when Anderson is pushing them to get them to denounce and denounce Trump and his behaviors and call for fair sentences and fair consequences, all of these motherfuckers was backtracking like, oh no, time out now. Hold on. Something's wrong here, but we can't. We got his dick in our hand. We can't, hey, we got to get him off. We can't do something.
You know what's the biggest question that I think we're now faced at this point is, what does this now mean, not just for America, but for, I guess, to be more nuanced, the Republican Party going forward, right? Because the reason why I asked the question is that if you ask anyone prior to today if you thought this would happen, near one would have said, yeah, I think it would have happened. It's so interesting because 2 days ago or so, Mitt Romney was going through the airport and he got roughed up by some of these same MAGA folks in the airport.
Guys. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So your man, apparently the reports are saying that when they rushed all of them down to these secret bunkers, he was digging in all these folks' asses, talking about, this is what the fuck you guys have created. Look at what you guys have done. Like you've torn America apart. And for what? Because you want to get some votes for possibly when you run in 2024. I don't know, man. I
think more importantly, the question that I've been asking is, what does this mean for Black people in America? What does watching these white folks act a complete donkey in a way that only white people can act a donkey, what does this mean for us? Because the thing that we have to remember historically, that whenever there is a incident or a situation of white on white violence on a mass scale, that unfortunately has a trickle down effect and affects Black folks. We indirectly, oftentimes, and sometimes directly historically, have been victims of white violence after white people have fought other white people. So I'm just trying to figure out, even from a political stance, what does this mean for Black folks? Watching this take place, how does this affect our everyday life? What does this do for us? Because this is white folks' fights. This was some shit that white folks was fighting.
Yeah, no bullshit. As we're sitting back, rubbing our hands together, saying, we've been telling you white folks that you white folks have been the problem.
Black women have been yelling from the rooftops. Like, Black women have been telling us for a long time. Like, y'all know white women. So what y'all gonna do?
I don't know where that, I really don't know where it leaves us, man. I really don't know where it leaves us. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this question. What do you think it means politically in terms of how we're going to get certain policies pushed through? Because, and this is the reason why I asked this question, beforehand, to me, Democrats had a slight window that they could use to weasel out of certain promises. Now you have them literally with having their lives threatened by the other party, by these people that they were trying to court and bring over from the other side to get their votes. And they showed them that we don't want to give you our votes. We don't even want you to be here, period. For me, if Democrats don't put their foot down and get a slew of things done, this was all a waste, and they should have just stayed in the chambers while these folks are running through the building.
But the honest question is that I asked you, and we've had this conversation before, why do we have an expectation that Democrats are going to do things to make Black folks' lives better? I mean, and I understand, and I think it was a good win for Warnock and old boy, the White Cat, to win. I think it was good. I think because Warnock has some decent qualities that he can help with. I'm not going to go too far in that. But again, why do we have an expectation that because we have a Democratic run Senate all of a sudden that shit is going to go different for Black folk? This is not the first time that we've had a Democratic rep Senate. We had a Democratic controlled Senate under a Black president.
No, I get you. I think the presumption is because there are Black people in the Democratic
I don't think it's just
Party.
a presumption, though. I think it's also a desire and an awareness that we need things to be different. I think that's also part of what fuels us to have this type of desire to, but I don't know. I think what we're going to end up witnessing, and I think is a good thing in a side panel type of fashion that I'll explain here in a minute. We're going to have a lot of infighting between Democrats and Republicans. It's going to be a whole lot of pissing contests taking place now. It's going to be more them versus them type of battles, and we're going to be on the outside losing because now these motherfuckers are spending so much time trying to get one up on each other because they're trying to get their feelings validated. But this is an opportunity for grassroots organizations and organizers to create power in their communities, to vet, create candidates that start in the council, judges, and rise up the ranks. Because we have such an affinity, or many of us have such an affinity, many of y'all rather, have such an affinity for the squad. We need more squads. We need more squads on the local level. And until we get that,
we do need more people. We do need more people that are going to be far more active in their fight and not just be mouthpieces ultimately for a particular party. Just to say, I'm sorry.
When are you going to run?
Shout out to our homie Trent, who posted that Twitter has locked down 45 Donald Trump's Twitter account for the next 12 hours. So I don't know what that's going to do, but we'll see how that works out. One of the questions that a lot of folks are asking is, what is the price that these politicians are going to pay for essentially treason? This is treason. Let's put it point blank, period. Did you try to get the country to not just to secede, but you tried to storm and could create a coup of a
coup took place. A failed coup happened today. A failed coup happened today. No one was arrested for coup charges. And treason has not been mentioned one time that I saw on any of the dominant media outlets. And that's problematic to me.
I'll give you that. I think the only outlet that I've seen that actually called these people, and I put people in quotes because you come to DC and you act like an animal. I mean, what else are you going to be called? But the only outlet that I've seen was NPR that called them pro-Trump extremists. Every other outlet called them protesters. Violence erupts when protesters come to Washington, D.C. I think we need to start there in terms of how we even label and talk about these people and people like them, because we have to give it gravity. We have to give these situations and these antagonists weight for the things that they're doing. And we're not doing that when we try to sugarcoat it and whatever. One of the fears that we have, and I was watching CNN and somebody said it, that the fear is that these politicians that were instigating all this nonsense this whole time are now later going to say, well, it was just rogue protesters that took our messages the wrong way. And said, nah, this is the time when we need to put every single one of them on Front Street and make sure that everybody knows that they are responsible for all of this bullshit that's been going on.
Man, and listen, like my homie Dwayne Tyler just said that, last time we had Democratic runs control Senate, we were not as politically aware as we are now. Bruh, I hope that is the case. And I'm just the guy who says ain't gonna make a fucking difference. But I hope it makes a difference. Honestly. But I think the thing to go to your point though, Sean, is all of these dudes who were instigating and exciting a riot today and controlling these terrorists have a base at the crib who voted them in, who pushed them into this position. So 9 times out of 10, their motherfucking base believes exactly what they believe.
I was just having, it's funny that you say that, because I was just having that same conversation with my wife before we came and started recording. She said, well, these people are going to be punished. And I said, I don't know how you can technically punish them, right? Because the people, but let's be very honest, as these senators are, they're all equals within the Senate, right? So the only way necessarily that you can punish them is to try and sanction them. Maybe you say the RCCC takes money from their campaigns and they can do X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, this is my argument. At the end of the day, the power still resides in the voting electorate. So you can take the money away from them, but if people still think that they're the champion, they're not going to vote somebody else just because you didn't put the dollars behind them.
Yeah. I just found it, and like Valerie says, American historians will look at these folks as patriots because they write history. Of course they will. They did the same fucking thing to George Washington.
Yeah.
We look at George Washington as a great man of the country, but he was one of the most evil, vile motherfuckers to walk the planet. But the problem is, Sean, I don't know how. We looking at it from home, and we see these things taking place, and we're looking like, okay,
Hold on, I gotta give a shout out to Valerie. Did you see Valerie said that's like getting Batman to punish Bruce Wayne? Accurate as fuck. Accurate.
It's not. And so and again, it goes back to that position of Black folks, working class Black folks. How does this affect us? What is our recourse in these type of situations? Is it just us sit back at home, sip on some Henny, and watch this shit unfold and cheer for one clear versus another clear? I don't know how, but I'm blown away, honestly. I'm blown away purely because I figured that America, in all of its arrogance, would react in kind when the Capitol is under siege, regardless of who it's under siege by. In my mind, I'm thinking that, America is just that fucking arrogant that you attacking the Capitol? Oh, somebody got to die. I mean,
my guy, I get you. Trent over here shared information saying that April Ryan reported that the Senate and Congress right now are trying to enact the 25th Amendment. I don't know what that's necessarily going to do with only 2 weeks.
We got 2 weeks. Are you going to enact the 25th Amendment and then arrest them? Because that's the only way that ends up making some sort of headway and make some sort of significance. If it's just about getting this motherfucker out of office, it's 2 weeks.
Now,
but again,
what they're going to
do in 2 weeks.
But that's even part of the problem also, man. It's like, okay, the 25th Amendment, who's going to take his place? Mike Pence is going to take his place. Mike Pence gets no kudos, no love from me, because he basically did the bare minimum today. He said he was going to do, you know why he got the ire and the fire of the MAGA group in the first place? Is because he said he was going to do his constitutional duty and no more. That he was going to come in, because all of the whole thing today was really just ceremonial for him to come in, count the votes or whatever the certificate, and call it a day. He said that that's what he was going to do, and MAGA said that all of a sudden that he was he was a member of the deep state and that he needed to be punished. So you're going to put the same dude in place that has been quaffing Donald Trump's ball hairs for like the past 4 years and then ask him to do the right thing. You're going to expect him to do the right thing now. I don't think that we can have that expectation from him. And one thing that's been getting me even more infuriated is the number of Republican representatives that have come out now and been all of a sudden now they're like, we need to stop this madness. Donald Trump, you were wrong for this X, Y, and Z. And I was like, you've been carrying his water for the past 4 years. Every time
his balls for 4 years, and now
4 years. Now all of a sudden there's a problem.
You want to let his balls hang. I don't understand what the problem is, but I think that the one thing is these people have to realize that I have to do something because he's not going to be in office in a couple of weeks. I got to do something to solidify my position here. I'm not going to come out and necessarily, speak so detrimentally negative about him, but I'll say just enough to curry favors,
enough
maybe
so that it doesn't affect you when it comes down for you to be reelected. I think that's part of the problem. Now, no one specifically was arrested for the murder of this woman specifically, and I'm trying to address to the brother Adeoye's comment. Now, what they have done, Capitol Police has wrangled up a bunch of buses, and there has been a mass arrest taking place. Now, what that looks like and how that's going to look like going forward, like, are they just being detained and taken away to DC Correctional, or are they actually going to have hard charges put against them? That's going to be the question that we're going to have to ask tomorrow, right? Or when all of the information starts coming out as to how this developed and what happened and whose fault was whose and all that other stuff.
I just think that as much as we desire, and I'm speaking particularly as Black folks in America, as much as we desire to have some sort of justice in this instance, and that justice is based off of the 400 years of horrendous evil oppression that we've gotten, it's really difficult for me to figure out what type of justice we're going to get here in this. And again, where was Gerald Butler? Where was, because Olympus was falling. I don't understand. But this, to me, somebody help me. Wasn't this a treasonous act?
I think, honestly, now no one has officially put that label on it, but I don't think there's any way hold on. Can we go through, let me go through some of the pictures from the foolishness that happened earlier today. Look at this nonsense. You got people
look like a bunch of drunk white people on spring break,
climbing the Senate walls, scaling the walls of the Capitol building, taking property, federal property, damaging property in the Capitol. Can you imagine? And for the past, let's even take a step back, because we know earlier during the summer, we were told when the whole Black Lives Matter thing happened after the death of George Floyd during Labor Day weekend, people got this upswell to try and protect and make sure that Black people were okay. Regardless of whether it was genuine or not, that's a different conversation, right? But then slowly you see how that conversation started to shift, and it became a matter of law and order and getting Black people in their place. So here we are, however many months after the fact, and white people are stepping out of pocket and no one is saying anything about it. So is rioting okay for white people or for MAGA folks?
Yes.
So looting and stealing federal property, that's okay for white people too, or is it Black people? Okay. Yes. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, because that's a clarity that I needed that is not necessarily being expressed or reported on in mainstream media right now.
No. It's okay for white people to do white people shit. It's okay. It's okay for them
to do what? To do what now?
To do white people shit. Because, and I say white people shit not to be slanderous towards white people, because I could do that anytime. But there's certain things that white people can do in this country that no other race is able to do. And today was the prime motherfucking example of that taking place.
Valerie, you are a straight clown, man. 3 movies about jacking the American government, we still wasn't ready. You're right. We wasn't ready at all. Not even one bit.
But they would have ran up in one of our grandma's speakeasy trying this shit.
Tried to do all of it.
It would have been bodies everywhere.
Everywhere.
But you need to tell me these motherfuckers was able to get, and listen, I'm blown away, sincerely, that there was the security that was displayed at the Capitol. Because I'm thinking, Sean, let's be honest, if you are a police officer and you're the place that you're providing security for is being overrun with armed, angry people. All it takes is a couple acts of violence towards one or two of them motherfuckers to slow them down.
You're right. I give you
Just,
that.
just at least to get an attention. I saw none of that from, of course, from mainstream media. I saw none of that. I saw no law enforcement officer commit any sort of defensive act of violence towards any of these terrorists today.
I
But
think
again,
that
if this is Black Lives Matter,
listen, we've
get down and lay down.
And Carmen makes reference to it in our comments too about how these police officers, and you've already alluded to it, were taking selfies with these people inside of the Capitol. There was an image that was floating around, or excuse me, a video clip on Twitter floating around of how one Capitol police officer essentially was swarmed by like 10 of these MAGA folks, overwhelmed, and he didn't shoot near one person.
He didn't shoot. He didn't pull out no doggone mace, no paper spray.
No,
my man said, "Stop, turn around, hauled ass up some steps, turn around." So I'm thinking to myself, bruh, it is literally 20 to 30 angry white males coming your way.
Yep.
What part of your ancestral DNA did not kick in? How are you not connected to the ancestors that would have told you when you see 20 angry white males coming at you that you have one or two options: shoot or run, or both? Shoot and run. I don't understand what bruh.
That the video itself was listen. The video itself is the prime example of how we hear from police officers very often how they were in danger of their life and had to fire on the black guy running away from them in the back however many times. This dude was swarmed by like 10 to 15 folks and not one person.
He had prime position too. He was up high. He could look down low. Bro, slow singing and flower bringing. It would have been a great day. I mean,
you're stupid. Listen, man, I don't know what we're going to do going forward from this point. Like you said, what does it mean for Black people when you see incidents in modern
Harris does not need to be out there for the inauguration. I tell you, that's what it does mean. They better do that inauguration like we be doing our damn meetings at work via Zoom. And bro, listen, it's really, and I know sound like I'm being facetious, but it's really not safe for her to be out there.
Nah, you're right. You're right. You're right. I don't know. I think
let Joe's old ass go out there. Let Joe check. He got a couple years left. Let Joe go out there. Take one for the team. And crime Bill Joe get that retribution back, bro.
He got to take his lumps for that crime bill.
He owes us, bro.
Come on, dog. Take one for the team. Take one for the team. Take one for the team, dog. Take one for the team. Nah, I get it, man. But I won't say, initially, like I will tell you, just like before we even engaged in this call, man, I told you that this is probably one of the happiest I've been in weeks.
I love that.
And it's not necessarily because you want to see people injured or anything like that. But when you see stuff, I'm speaking for myself, motherfucker. But when you see things like this happen, and you be like, it takes a very strong and diligent person not to say "I told you so." And I was trying not to.
This motherfucker right here told all you guys this.
And Black people across America were like, "We've been telling you this for how."
Black women understand it. Like, yo, listen, man.
Yep. Nobody got tased. Nobody got lumped up. No nothing. I'm surprised they didn't drive some of them to Burger King afterwards.
Burger King and selfies was the order of the day. But these are probably their relatives, bro. This is like one big clear family reunion.
Yeah, it was.
Mayonnaise Fest 2021.
This is 2021. It said told 2020 hold my beer. It's starting off at
Budweiser.
Told is at an awkward pace right now, my guy. So what do you expect? I mean, we can't look into the future. but we are both students of history, so we know that certain things do repeat themselves. But I'm going to ask you so that we can have it on the record, because we try to be professionals here. Okay, what do you think is going to be coming forward in the next couple of days, next week, prior to your man taking going through the inauguration and actually taking the oath of office?
For one, I see the coronavirus numbers skyrocketing. When you look at this bullshit that took place today at Mayonnaise Fest 2021, probably about 5 of these motherfuckers had masks on. None of them were, I mean, and literally, in all seriousness, no one had a mask on, and we're in the midst of a pandemic where the disproportionate number of Black people who are getting it and dying it is through the roof. So we had these people today. I see more of these taking place. I envision something like this happening because you gave them today, you gave them courage because you didn't just
stomp it out the first time. Yep, you're right about that.
I see this happening again, and I don't see good things, man. I see this getting worse and worse, and I see white people going head to head with other white people, and I'm asking all Black people to stay the fuck out of it. Stay your ass at home. Let them handle it.
Yeah, no bullshit.
For how long? Then you handle your stuff. But
you spot on, man. For how long this has been their fight? And I don't say that facetiously. Honestly, the only change is going to be about is when white people start talking to other white people about the bullshit that's been going on. So I don't know what to expect, to be honest with you. Like you've already said, apparently after everybody got swept into the secret bunker in the Capitol building, the Republicans that were not, quote unquote, on board with the foolishness to try and stop the count of the electoral votes jumped on the 4 other ones that were and told them, when we come back to start counting, you dudes are going to have some issues. This is according to early reports. Okay.
What type of issues can they give them? What can they do?
They can sanction
to another senator who said "fuck you" and ride with Trump. What can you do to them?
They can sanction them. They can censure them. They can take them away from certain committees and things of that nature. I don't know necessarily if they have the complete power to kick them out and remove them from their seat entirely. But I mean, these are the questions that are probably going to be answered as the next couple of hours or day or two goes forward. And we find out, okay, what can the punishment be for some clowns that essentially caused an uprising? So we'll see what happens. Hey, this was really only supposed to be like a few minutes long, and we're damn near in almost an hour into the jump. So I'm thankful for everybody that showed up and started engaging in our conversation. But before we head out, L, please tell these good folks where they can find you if they'd like to find you, man.
Man, I'm mainly on Twitter these days. I hate Facebook, so you can find me on Twitter, man, at Elgin Bailey. I'm on Instagram a little bit more later these days also, but at Elgin Bailey, wherever you're looking for me, man. Just at Elgin Bailey. OnlyFans, at Elgin Bailey. Cam Solo, always at Elgin Bailey. Your mama's house, at Elgin Bailey.
I didn't know that your OnlyFans was flourishing that well, my guy. I'm sorry. Continue to do your thing. Continue to do your thing. And I am Big O, Mr. In the Black himself. You can always find me on Twitter and on Instagram at @MR_in_the_black. And I want to thank you for this special episode of the In the Black podcast. Remember, we want to hear from you. Help continue to support Black media, specifically independent Black media like this. And we want to talk to you guys and give you the real and have these conversations with you the way no other type of outlets are going to do. So make sure you stick around and check us out across social media at In the Black, PDCST, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And as always, informed, intelligent, in the black.
In the Black.
Peace.